we want to review quickly the fact that there were complementary colors, which are opposite colors: yellow, purple, red, green, blue, and orange. And this is our standard color wheel. The inner circle, again, a review, are the earth colors: burnt sienna, burnt umber, raw sienna, Payne's gray, ivory black. This is the pigment spectrum. It is made up of earth colors, transparent to opaque. And as the artist progresses in their understanding, they learn which color to use with another color to make the most impact and interest. The strongest colors are the darker purples, and the lighter colors are the yellows. So when you put these in juxtaposition, you will have a very contrasting point of interest in your picture. This shows you the complementary colors a little clearer, with only 6 being mentioned. And then here we have the full pigment spectrum, the color wheel, the basic color wheel. And here we have several shades of turquoise, which are my favorites. We're going to be using those today as we complete our drawing. Now, starting out with, just to remember where we were drawing a composition that had a relatively high vanishing point and horizon line. And we had a center of interest that was going to be right near the strong yellow that would flow from the horizon all the way down through to where the little boats are. And we began to show you that there were waves that were in perspective, larger, back to smaller. We showed you that there were trees that were in reflection down into the water. And this is also called a mirror image. Now, to enhance the mirror image so you will have a better, clear understanding of that, I'm going to use a little bit of purple down in the water that would be exactly reversed to the drawing of the hill above. The artist becomes a bit of a scientist and certainly has studied a little bit of how the world is put together, and it really is a wonderful thing. I just love the balance and the symmetry and the various components of art, such as contrast, such as unity. These are major terms, and yet they say a lot. For example, you have repeating shapes. Now there seems to be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's not an artistic number. So let's put in a little of a number 5 in here. So that gives you an odd number, and it makes a better drawing. Also, you don't want them equally distanced. You want maybe a few out here, just to kind of randomly placed, and they could be anywhere. But it makes a much more interesting composition if you're not exactly, just counting the inches between each tree in your drawing. And of course, over here is going to be a place for just a plethora of little trees that will be finished at a later time. But all of that will be filled and then reflected in the water. So this is also something that you need to remember. There is always to be a unity and a consistency. Those words are very important, as well as contrast and things that are unique. So you need a little bit of both. You need a balance, a consistency, and a uniqueness, and a contrast. All those are words that we use in the artistic field, and you learn to use them easily as you develop your skills in these drawing areas. And a person should develop the sketchbook habit and be sketching all the time. If you're just out for a walk in the morning, you can take your sketchbook along and you see something lovely that is attractive. And certainly you could stop, maybe take a little chair with you and just randomly stop and make a little sketch and make it interesting and make your sketchbook full of life. So here we have the reflected mountain, and I'm showing it down here in the water. All right, I like that. And I'm going to use this purple again, and I'm going to come back over here into the rocks. Colors that are used once always should be used twice or again. So the purples are important in any composition because they can be brought into the depth and made very dark. So it's exciting to see a rock like this just begin to pop when it has more strength. There's a first and a second and a third value in a painting. And sometimes washes are left a little weak in second value. And remember, of course, the other rule is you can always make something darker. It's really, really hard to lighten something or take a washout, particularly. Once a paper, particularly good watercolor paper, once it's been marked or stained, it's just a real tragedy because it's unfixable. Sometimes I've soaked really, really good watercolor paper in water and put bleach in to try to take out pigment. And actually that works a little bit, but then the surface of the paper and the beautiful rough texture is often damaged. So there is skill that is needed in doing these kinds of things to correct mistakes. But what is a mistake? It really is an opinion. And I have to leave it there. You know, we have a very judgmental world, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And to one person, something is really lovely, and to somebody else, the very same thing might be not acceptable. So we don't want to judge too harshly. We're gonna be able to judge our own work. And what I love to do is to just judge a piece against something I might have done a year or two before, or even 20 years before. And in my case, I've got drawings from 60 years ago. And I could go back and look at these sketches and say, well, I've learned a little bit in all this time. But you only learn and you only develop your skills if you use them. And it's really important to use your skills and to learn to see and learn to look and to develop it yourself. I love to be original. There's such an important integrity in everything we do. It follows in the music field, in the art field, and then everyone should have integrity and not copy somebody else's work. I mean, only in a class where you're learning and studying with any particular teacher, that's okay. You certainly want to do that. See if you can emulate some of the skills and thoughts that an artist would have. But to call it your piece or to say you did it is not really integrous. Now, this is a falling leaf pattern. And you move downward, and as you go from this area down to this area, it's kind of like a leaf would fall. A little bit over here, a little bit over here, a little bit over here, a little bit over here. And you move through the water, and you still remember the perspective as it gradually gets larger down into this area. Well, I'm having so much fun doing this, and I could do this for several more hours, but that wouldn't teach you much. What you're going to be doing now, if you follow me this far, is to do the rest of the picture yourself. And you have the basic ideas, so now follow through and see if you, oh, one more thing. If you use lines that are vertical, it's water that will be reflecting like this. That's how you show water is in a reflection. Vertical lines and then horizontal lines. So that shows a reflection. And of course, the lighter green is better. So let me bring this just a tad closer to see if you can see it a little bit better. How's that? How is that? Okay. I believe that I'm going to go on to the next lesson, and we'll come back to this perhaps next time, and I will show you the finished piece.